Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of XRHQ Live. It is an absolute pleasure to be joined by Che and Kim Turner of Olive Express. And I am super excited for them to tell you all about this wonderful social enterprise in Australia and what they do. But Che and Kim, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hey, Jeremy. My name's Che. I'm one of the co-founders of Olive Express, along with my wife Kim.
Lovely
I'm
to have
the
you
other
both.
half. I'm
And
boss and my partner. Yes. Hello, everyone.
yeah, it's fantastic to have you both. And do you want to give us just a little bit of background as to what made you start Olive Express and what, in a nutshell, is it?
So, Jeremy, it started many years ago in Windsor. I used to live in the UK, in Windsor, and my nan was there. Her name was Olive, and I used to visit every week. And we used to get the train up to Oxford and to Bath and a few other places quite often. But as she aged, she was in a wheelchair. My mum move. So she said we can still go on that journey. And I said, I'll see what I can do to go on a train journey. And 7 years later, it was a dream. It was a dream, actually. How about some TVs in a van and see if we can replicate yes. So then we put together an old van with TVs and see if it would work. And it did.
Amazing. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show everyone a little bit of a video to bring it to life. And while I do that, I'm going to get myself some earphones, as we might be having a little bit of interference. I don't know if you have a headset, Che, but if you do,
I do. Yeah, just give me one second.
See if you can give that a go.
Yeah.
And we'll load up this intro. This for me shows how wonderful the experience is, because we see a lot of applications of immersive technology in the business world, and they produce some fantastic results, but we rarely get to hear about the impact on people's lives. And this is what really touched me about Olive Express when I first found out about it, and I'm so glad we could talk about it here at XRHQ Live. Kim, I want to ask you a question in particular about the experience. What does it entail from beginning to end, and what do the participants do when they're on the Olive Express? If you want to just summarize it for our audience.
Sure. It's evolved quite a bit from how we first envisaged it to what we've actually ended up creating. So initially, the idea was when they come on board, there's already footage playing that they're at a train station. So they're about to, there's a place for them to pull away from. The journey itself. So, sorry, they'll come in, they'll sit down. Everyone will be seated up opposite a window. So whether the window is too close to them, they can look across to the other side. So there's something comfortable for the eye to adjust to at every point. We also wanted the doors to be able to close. So with the van, when our prototype was actually a van, so we would actually close the doors and just have it like really feel like they're inside a carriage. Um, and we've changed that now with the new immersive trailers. We're calling them travel rooms because trailer doesn't have that zing to it. Travel room is how we're describing it. We have the curtains instead to actually block out the light, but that just makes it for easier entry and exit for people in case they need to get up, go to the loo, have staff come in and out. So we were starting to adjust for all of those little things. But as soon as the curtains close, we have music playing already. So they're coming in, and it's you know, um, like coming into like a fancy restaurant. There's like dinner music playing. So as they seat, we dim the lights, close the curtains, and then the journey actually starts. And all of that is controlled just from a touch panel screen that we've got. And we load up the particular journey that they had wanted to or that was planned for that session. So we also had initially started with the concept that the train journey is as realistic as possible. So if it's a 1 hour train journey, it's the full train journey, warts and all, which unfortunately also includes chain link fences and underneath, you know, um, bridges and lots of people's laundry and not the fun stuff of the view. So we had a couple of purist conversations about that going, do they really want the actual not so nice parts of the view, or do they want the best snapshots of everything? And it turns out it was the latter because they ain't got no time for the rest of it. They want to see all the highlights. So that's how we ended up with curating journeys that were, the best parts of Europe or the best parts of, this particular country, so they could jump to different locations. We initially started with, excuse me, we initially started with doing high tea. So the prototype, when we were first testing the concept, was Che was inside there. He was everything. He was the train conductor, the journey narrator. He was really intent on getting them eating, serving cups of tea, coffee, passing it around. But then his role really was to elicit conversation and see how they would react to it. So he was my experiment person. He was the one who had to come home and answer my copious questions. What did they eat? What did they look at? What were they pointing at? Why did they not do this? Well, did they get stressed out? How did the dog find it? All of, yeah, I was the data person and he was very much the do everything. Uh, and we also found that with serving meals, that also tended to, there was a time and place for that. If you were
Hmm.
doing session after session after session, um, people wouldn't always eat because they just had morning tea or they were just about to go to lunch. Or it was around the time when they were drinking lots and lots of tea and coffee with so much sugar in it. That's probably not a great idea for them, at that particular time. So we didn't want to interfere with the meal plans at the retirement communities that we were going to. So we decided to take a step back from the high tea being provided as part of the experience, but making it actually very staff led. So we pivoted at that point to going, instead of designing completely for the guests, as we call them, the passengers, we designed for the staff instead to say, how do we make it as easy as possible for staff to run? They can sit
Yeah.
in with the passengers. Um, they can provide the food that is appropriate to those individuals' needs, which we wouldn't have known if we were just rocking up with a you know, set of meals and everything. So all up, currently the experience is very much still as close to the original concept as possible. It's kind of like Disneyland rules, right? Like you come in, everything's already set up. There's lights on the table. Um, there's still that train station for them to pull away from. The lights dim, the curtains close, and then they take off on the journey. And the tea, coffee, the meals are now according to what the communities will provide. Some of them have actually started to have little, those trolleys that you have in either the airplanes or
Yeah.
trains. So, and some of them have different ways of engaging. So they'll give the residents coupons or vouchers so they feel like they're buying particular meals. So it's still very much choice led. So there's so much variation
So the
that can be
level of
done.
immersion is really big, right? Like you're not only you haven't just got the screens which display the traveling background, which gives you the sense that you're in this carriage, but you were saying,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we can see here from the picture, you've designed it beautifully on the interior. You've got the wallpaper, you've got the doors. Even I think we were talking about the food. You kind of modify based on the cuisine of the location you're going to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We kept it low key but simple, but contextually appropriate. So, yeah, when we had the Japan trips, we put mochi balls and different types of fare when we were still doing the high tea, just to see what how people would react to it. A lot of what we do is just experimentation. We'll throw an idea out there and just see how it runs. And we also wanted to see how travel changes people's behavior when they try food, when
Hmm.
are they willing to try new things, especially if they weren't expecting to go to Japan that day, or at that point in their lives. And it's fascinating when Jay would come home and he'd still have, you know, bags of things that people ate or didn't eat. And like, did they try it at least? It's like, yeah, they tried it. They nibbled it. They didn't like it. Well, at least they tried it. So it was part of the experience, and they could say
Yes.
that they had something appropriate. Or, we had Europe. We also find that some of the communities actually also have goodie bags that they put that are also themed to the journeys. So they'll have, here's your, here's the kit for your going to Scotland, or here's nibbles that are appropriate for China. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of
Amazing.
fun.
No, I love that. And Che, let's jump to you very quickly to talk a little bit about or to look behind the curtain, because I know there's a lot that goes into setting this up, and we're about to see a little video here about how it all works. But can you run us through the challenges that you had as you were going through making this a reality, bringing it to life? The sort of lessons you learned along the way as you were setting things up. And you're on mute at the moment.
Absolutely, Jeremy. So, and initially we started with, as Kim was mentioning, inside a van, but we found so many limitations around the van when it comes to access, because we wanted all the residents inside the community who could come on board. So people in wheelchairs, people in day beds, and this is why I started this, is because my nan Olive, she couldn't walk in, towards the end of her life. So you can see there that the tables do fold down, and that enables beds and hospital beds and people to get in. So we decided to create a larger trailer. So now instead of the vans, we have a larger trailer which has a lot more space, so we can get the hospital beds inside. And one of the other reasons why we decided to build this immersive room inside the trailers is because we could leave it at the communities for a lot longer. So what we do now is, instead of just pulling up for the day, where like my, myself used to be the operator, now we actually leave it outside, and it works like an asset for the company, where they've actually got their own immersive room on site for a period of generally 4 weeks. So that way they can take their time, the residents can hop on board, the staff can use it, and also the family members. So one of the biggest things that was a surprise to me, that now when you can imagine, like when you go and visit your elderly parents or your grandparents in a nursing home, sometimes it's not the most invitive environment to have a conversation and to spark sort of, it's just a dining room or a bedroom. Or so what Olive does is that when family members visit, they can hop on board with their loved ones, and actually go on journeys to France, to Europe, to Japan, and it sparks so much more conversation than what you would normally get just sitting inside somebody's room and having a conversation. So that was one of the biggest surprises that we felt, is that when family members come on board.
Yeah, and it seems like it's been a big journey for you both in trying to make this work, but you have been acknowledged for it. I understand you've won some awards. You've been covered by news organizations in different parts of the country, locally, nationally. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the accolades that you've won and that you've been recognized for?
Absolutely, Jeremy. It's quite funny just looking back at the video there, and that was sort of our very early days. Um, we created this just to make a difference, and then we had a couple of local news firms about 2 years ago that saw the idea, and they had a few stories, and we were on sort of local Australian um, news shows, and then we had the University of Queensland come on board, and they come on and said, "Oh, it'd be good if you could do some sort of research around Olive Express and quantify the." Because we actually saw that it made a difference in people's lives, and we wanted to sort of see if that if that actually was the case. So then we decided to. Then the University of Queensland actually contacted us after the media coverage, and said we'd love to do some research. So I think Bupa is in the UK, I believe. Jeremy, is it?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, they
UK
are.
organised. Yeah. So they're a big provider in Australia. So they jumped on board the University of Queensland and said, "Oh, so you can see in the photograph there, that's our original van that we created." And yeah, so we did a study with them for 3 months, I believe,
Mhm.
over 10 of their communities. So it was an ongoing basis to see the effects.
And what did you find? And Kim, feel free to jump in as well in terms of what were the results, the outcomes in in terms that the non-academic might understand.
Sure. So what they were trying to see when they saw the Olive Express on the news, uh, Professor Gabby Walters was thinking this is actually a really perfect experiment box, because what they were interested in seeing was how virtual or immersive travel could actually create any benefits. Because a lot of people, once they get to a certain age, they start to opt out of travel. But travel is actually very related to well-being. It's, a lot of people have, they report high quality of life if they're still able to travel, if they have that agency and that sense of being able to go, um, of their own volition, to go and see the world. It's not the act of traveling itself, but it's everything. It's the memories, it's the nostalgia, it's the new addition to your psyche that you get. So they wanted to see if this could cut it. Would it be the equivalent of, excuse me, actual travel? So they wanted to test, just with interviews, the before, during, and the after, and also to measure. They had, those. I can't remember the name of the devices they had, but they actually are non-intrusive sensors that they put on your fingers to measure the temperature, because that's how they can actually tell from your body heat, and how and from your muscles, what
Oh,
your level
interesting.
of like emotional arousal or
Hmm.
engagement is. So like, are you flatlining or are you plateauing at certain bits? Like, which bits are catching attention? And they were actually able to prove that, when people were looking, in the journeys, like, the screens, they're screens, but with the footage and the content, as they're immersed in the journey, they start talking. They're in the moment. They have the sound. They feel like the train's moving. Excuse me.
So
And
what's
yeah.
interesting, Jeremy, is that with the study that we conducted, so it had across the whole health metrics from a sort of mental and a physiological point of view. As Kim mentioned, they use biometrics sensors on the hands. So what we found over the 3 months is that all health metrics improved on the individuals that took part in the study, both from a mental, which means sort of from a loneliness, from happiness, from a
Hmm.
isolation point of view, and physiologically as well. So the report wasn't just about how the residents felt inside Olive Express. It's about how it affected them over the duration of the study. So it's from the beginning and then after the time of the study, we took some metrics, and all the health metrics improved over that study, which was a shock to us because it's a TV with vans in it. I mean, it's a van with TVs in it, so it was quite a shock that it could make such a difference to an individual's health.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing about immersive technology, and I love the way you've gone about it. So you don't need a head-mounted display, a headset to put on people, which can often put them off. I have seen headsets work in many different places, but this solution is has the advantage of you being able to have a group there without individual pieces of equipment like that. And some people feel self-conscious wearing headsets, of course. So this you're able to achieve that level of immersion, which comes with the benefits you were speaking about. You know, the mental health benefits, the physiological benefits. You know, fairly easily or frictionlessly, which I think is fantastic.
Also,
There's an
Jeremy, I think
additional element. Sorry.
so good. We're probably
Yeah.
going to say the same thing. So recently, we've actually built a room. So these are mobile rooms we have. Recently, we've
Hmm.
actually built a room inside an aged care community. So we've actually decked out a whole immersive room to look like a train. And the main reason was that is because we've actually seen food consumption increase. So people that hop on board, they're normally in their dining room in the aged care community, which is somewhat, they do their best, but it is just a very plain dining room, and people struggle to eat, especially with dementia. But when you take them out of that environment and actually put them into an immersive experience, food consumption completely changes. So they start eating a lot more protein, they start eating a lot more food. So now that Southern Cross University in Australia, we're doing a study around how food consumption can increase with immersive experiences. So when you're in that experience, you actually eat more food.
Yeah, that's
Um,
incredible. So it's the physical health benefits as well as all the other benefits. Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Building on that as well, it wasn't covered in the UQ study because just with the range of participants they had, but we also noticed that guests who are living with dementia also were able to react positively, in this immersive space, and that was something that we had no nothing to anticipate. When we were coming into this, we were just thinking it's an experience for people, but we found in one case at this particular home, a very agitated individual was coming in, and the staff were like, "Oh no, this is gonna bomb. It's gonna be, a nightmare." But he actually calmed down once he was in a familiar environment, and when he calmed down, he was able to settle, and that set him to a really good path for the rest of the day, which means he was able to get rest. And it's something that we know that VR has, incredible applications, but for people who are like touch sensitive, or they're not necessarily in that particular moment with the rest of people, the isolating experience can be, they'll just like yank it off their faces, and so it's not a great experience for them. But in a social environment where people are there you know, to calm them down or to be with them. We had couples where, husband and wife. The husband has dementia. The wife was able to be with him as he all of a sudden had memories come back about the trip that he was seeing, because he was like, "Oh, I think I've been there," and he actually had. So there's a lot of almost accidental benefit to this for a cohort that we hadn't even planned for.
So by familiar places, you're talking about taking these individuals to a country that they may have visited 30, 40, 50 years ago, and taking them along a train journey through that country
Yep.
to then trigger memories of the past, which have benefits, right, for those with dementia and other similar conditions.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we're learning, with dementia, people tend to have the memories of their younger selves. So it's those memories that are kind of locked in. It's the current state that they're not always, totally aware of. I'm not an expert in this space, but in this particular case, the couple had actually gone on that particular trip for their honeymoon. And so he recognized places. He recognized the town. And he was talking to his wife.
Yeah.
Thought, "Oh, do you remember when we did this?" And we were just blown away by it. We're like, "Is this really happening? This is awesome."
Yeah, that's amazing. So thinking about a little bit around back to the technology now, we talked about the immersive nature of it, both through the screens, through the interior design that you've done, which is amazing work, through the I guess the non-tech aspects as well, through the cuisine that matches the journey. But also, as with most things these days, there's a little bit of artificial intelligence that feeds into this too, right? So maybe Che, if you want to tell us a little bit about how AI feeds into this immersive solution that you've created.
Absolutely, Jeremy. So initially, obviously, it was me inside the immersive room, and I was a commentator, etc. But that's not really feasible, when you're trying to scale. So we thought, what can we do? So we decided to create
Sorry, I'll turn
AI
off the sound there.
avatar.
Yeah.
That's okay. We decided to create an AI avatar inside. So he's on the end in the TV screen, and he actually narrates the whole journey through where they go. So if they're in Switzerland, he would say there's on the left-hand side we have a certain mountain that's a certain height. This is the food that they eat. If we're in China, it talks about the culture, the history, the population, and that's sort of where I find that AI is really come into its own, where it's something that we can create with a simple platform. I think we use HeyGen for that. And we just put the text in, and it creates an amazing avatar that sounds real. And also, one of the big advantages of that is obviously with AI, it's multilingual now. So we can, with a click of a button, we can change any language. So we have residents that when we pull up, they come inside that are from Switzerland that haven't, that no longer speak English, but they hop inside and the commentary's in Swiss in their hometown. So they're literally just sitting there. They believe that they're in Switzerland listening to a Swiss conductor talking about their home country. And the effect that has on people is extraordinary. We didn't think just a simple AI program avatar could make such a difference to people's lives when they can, because they're obviously, when you get dementia and sort of Alzheimer's, a majority of people revert back to their original language. So they lose when they used to use that whatever language in the country that they're in. So yeah, that was one of the biggest shocks that we have. So at the moment we're working, which I was at the University of Queensland 2 days ago. So we have a cohort of students, about 10 students, that are computer scientists, and we're designing a fully interactive AI inside the immersive room. So when the residents come on, they will get a boarding pass and a QR code. So they scan the QR code when they come aboard, and then the avatar introduces himself. He says, "Hello, I'm your conductor, Mary. Welcome on board." And then when Mary wants to ask a question, she presses a button, and then Mary can ask the avatar through the microphone, "Oh, what's the population of this town?" Or what's the food like? And then the avatar responds to Mary.
So it's not a one-way conversation, right? It's not just the conductor speaks to the audience and that's it.
So at the moment it is, but the next generation is what we're working on now with the university, is that there's going to be fully interactive AI with all the residents come on. So the AI is going to know the resident's name, so it can communicate with them individually in their own language, which is something we're really excited to introduce very soon.
Yeah. Any other sneak peeks you can give us, Kim, about the future of Olive Express and where you're going with it, what ideas you've got? And before you answer, I'll also say if anybody does have any questions that they want to pose to either Che or Kim, please do let us know in the comments. So either if you're watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and I will pass it on to Che and Kim in the next few minutes. But yeah, over to you, Kim, about the future.
We're full of ideas, and one of the best parts about working with Che on this is he's such a creative person. So, we're just constantly prototyping new things. The interactive avatar is one thing because we want to. We can't anticipate everything that customers or guests are going to want to know about a place, and so why not just give them the entire encyclopedia about that location. Otherwise, we're just limiting what we provide to them as knowledge. But we also don't want to be our tagline that when we started this was no boundaries, just horizons. So how can we take away what boundaries there are? And it's not necessarily just like what's the view? What are they actually looking at? What part of the world can we take them to? So we're often quite inspired by if anyone has seen Howl's Moving Castle, you know, that magic door
Yeah.
that kind of like where can you go at any particular point, or the holodeck on Star Trek. Like that's our, you know, we just mention that like a couple hundred times every day. It's like holodeck. What can we do with that? Because you can be in outer space, you can be underwater, you can, you know, people who want to go on a snorkel. What about that as a view? You know, like in a train. It doesn't have to be a train. We kind of broke that bubble a while ago when we got drone footage, we got helicopter footage, and we're like, is this gonna break the whole, you know, um, suspension of disbelief part of immersive travel or virtual travel? Because they're coming into a train, they're thinking it's a train, and all of a sudden we're taking them off and they're circling around New York in a helicopter, and they don't mind, they love it. So we're like, okay, that tested well. Keep going. What else we got? You know, so we're, yeah, when we're commissioning footage, we just keep adding to the list of what about this? What about this? So yeah, and just
Amazing.
yeah,
I'm looking
playing
forward to
with
seeing those
every part of it.
experiments. Yeah, absolutely. And Che, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I suppose our North Star is, as Kim said, the holodeck. So, I mean, most of your viewers have seen this Las Vegas, you know, that
Yeah,
new,
I've been there personally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been there.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it is, I would say, and I'm sorry for digressing a little bit here, but it is, I'm
No.
glad you brought it up because it's the most immersive I've felt outside of a headset anywhere in the world. So it's a very special experience for sure.
So that's, I'm glad you've been there, Jeremy, because that's exactly what we're trying to achieve in the new generation of Olive Express. And the last 4 weeks in China, looking at technology that we can actually bring that sort of immersive space into the small trailer environment. There's a lot of
Yeah.
challenges, of course, trying to do that, but it is possible. So that's sort of our North Star within the next year. If any of you out there have any suggestions or anything to help us along making a really immersive experience, we do have currently we've got these platform shakers that actually bolt underneath the trailer, and it makes it feel like a train track. So you get little lumps, etc. But yeah, we're working on the next generation is going to be pretty much the Sphere in Vegas, but a mobile version.
Oh, that would be amazing. I mean, I can see the customer base growing once you've implemented that. I remember a project which somebody featured on XRHQ. It's an older project now, but it's still incredibly magical. And I remember when it first came out, it was in 2015, I think, 2015, 2016. Lockheed Martin created they called it the Field Trip to Mars for school children. I think it was in Washington, D.C. or some US city. And what they did is they stripped a school bus interior out, and they replaced the windows with transparent LED screens. And they told the kids, "You're going on a field trip." So the kids went onto the bus, and they were kind of excited. It's a good fun trip around Washington, D.C. They were expecting around the city. And all of a sudden, halfway through the journey, like the outside view across the entire bus changed to the landscape of Mars. So you got that impact or that effect, that immersive effect of I just got teleported from where I am here in the city on Earth to this Martian landscape. And I've always remembered that experience because I thought it was just really a really cool immersive effect. And I wondered if you've thought about transparent screen LED technology.
It's
I
going on
Be
the
an
haven't, no.
idea.
It's going on the list because this is the first I've heard about it.
Yeah,
So
I'll show you
what-
I'll show you the link after this about how it works.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about that.
But yeah, I
I've
thought
never
it was
seen
magical.
before, Jeremy.
The other thing they did is, and now we're kind of talking about a completely different project, but it might be relevant to this one. They connected the bus's I guess driving system or orientation system so that whenever the bus turned right on a road, it turned right on the Martian landscape. So yes, there was a game engine running the 3D Martian landscape view that the bus had, but it matched the feeling that the school children felt when they were traveling left, right, and straight across the city. So yeah, you can consider that one for a version 2 or version 3 of Olive Express.
I
Absolutely.
love that idea. That's similar to Kim and I were in Singapore 4 or 5 months ago at the Science Museum. There they have a new interactive space station, a VR space
Oh
station,
yeah.
and the furniture, the real furniture is integrated into the VR. So when you see the chair, it looks like a space chair, but it's just a normal chair. But you can touch it,
Yeah.
you feel it, you can sit down in it. And I've never experienced VR where you can physically touch things that are there. So yeah,
It does
Jeremy,
add to that level of immersion, doesn't it?
it
So
does. Yeah.
we've got Oscar's asking a question here, and he's saying, "Super cool project, guys. Has anyone become dizzy inside the trailer?" Maybe Kim, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, surprisingly, no. So, and we were worried about claustrophobia in the early days. We were worried about people feeling trapped or just wanting to like get the hell out, or what the dizziness aspect was. And we actually got, I think, a very different feedback. The early versions of our footage, people were like, "We wanted to. Can you get someone outside the van and just like shake it every now and then so that it feels like we're rumbling?" So they wanted more. Yeah, this. Yeah, the thing that we were concerned about was because of the tightness of the trailers. You're right that there's a potential of being dizzy if you're too close to the screens, but that's where we actually found that the positioning of it, they can look at the screen that's basically right next to them, so that's potentially too close to your eyes. But you've got all of the other windows down the trailer or the van as well. So there's other windows to look out, and that's what people tend to like focus on. And that way, which works to our benefit, they're facing other people, and therefore they're seeing what other people are pointing at and looking at, and it sparks more conversation. So from the dizziness part of it, we were really worried about that, but it hasn't come to pass. So we're always
Great.
checking for that. It's a good point.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of praise coming in. Orinta says, awesome project. Oscar's obviously said it was super cool. Jacinta is saying it's such a lovely project for the elderly community. So yeah, a lot of praise coming in, everyone, which is great and lovely to see everyone so engaged with the project. Another message that's come through to me personally is around your customer base, and maybe Che, if you want to take this one. So this individual is asking, who are your main customers, and what is the cost of a program like this?
So yeah, it's a very good question. So over the last 2 years, and initially it was aged care, so people who can no longer travel, people who can no longer leave their environment. So imagine being stuck in your home and you cannot leave. That was our initial environment, initial sort of audience. We have tried it with individuals that are in retirement villages, which means they can leave. And we have tried it with schools, etc. And what we found is that the impact isn't as much with people that still have the ability to physically mobilize and leave their community. People that they like it, they enjoy it, but it's for individuals that at the moment, I think with the level of the technology inside, etc., for individuals that cannot literally leave their community that they live in, that's where the biggest impact is. So we have tried it with schools, with retirement, etc., but the impact isn't as large because those individuals can still get out into the real world. So
Yeah.
it's a very good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you're offering a real service for the older adults community. There's some real benefits there, and I've seen it across other projects as well. I think most people underestimate the older adults community, and the perception is that they don't really engage in technology. They're not a big user of this tech. But actually, when it comes to virtual reality and immersive technologies more generally, the older adults community are one of the most avid users of this technology, simply because, as you say, it does solve a real human problem for them. as opposed to it being, in the consumer world, it might be an entertainment nice to have. In the business world, it might be, cost savings and a new revenue path, a new revenue increase, efficiencies, and so on. But none of those solve that real human problem that you're solving with Olive Express here, which is really cool.
Yeah,
One of the
it's yeah.
things, sorry, I just
No
had a
worries.
quick quote.
Yeah, go for it.
We were just recently in Singapore. You mentioned the awards before. So we were at this awards night, and it was with a lot of other aged care homes who were in there. Yay, that was us. We won. We won 2 awards. It
And
was
this was against Google
incredible.
and others, wasn't it?
It was companies backed by Google. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing companies that were doing like incredible tech, and somehow our startup got technology for social engagement of the
So
year.
we
So
won Innovation of the Year. Yeah, in two
Incredible.
two categories. Mm.
But one of the things that one of the CEOs was mentioning was he completely gets where programs like ours and the technology like ours fits, because their business in aged care is the aged care homes, the retirement homes for the elderly. But the elderly might not necessarily want to be there, so this gives them a choice, gives them a chance to explore something else and have a moment back to themselves, or that I can go anywhere I want at any time. It's just that sense of agency that they still get, even though it might be really difficult for them to get up and out and get onto the bus that takes them to someplace real. Not everyone has that ability anymore. So it was, yeah, for them, they were loving the idea that this gives them an asset that lets people leave the place um, whenever they want.
Yeah, I think it's well deserved. You've put a lot of work into this. You've worked with academia on producing results that show there is value from a physical, physiological, and mental perspective. So it's not just a nice to have fun day out. It is that, but it's also, real human results there and improvements. So my hat's off to you, and I'm glad everybody else is finding it an incredible project from our community too. Are there any other thoughts or comments that we haven't touched upon before we bring everything to a close? Anything you wanted to add in the end here?
From our part, we're
Uh,
just constantly prototyping or testing. Every day it's like, let's try something different.
Well,
So it's
here's
just
another
keeping track of that.
question. Do you want to leave people with any call to action in terms of, should they go somewhere to get in contact with you? Is there an email you want to leave them with? What would be helpful to you if for the people who are watching this stream?
so if there's anyone, wants to reach out, Olive Express website is the best place to contact. It's just about trying to sell Olive Express. It's about trying to sell immersive technology. So we are a social enterprise, so we're not in it for financial gain. So if there's someone in Switzerland or someone in the US that likes this concept, we're more than happy to share ideas and what they can do. We're not here to sell a product. We're here to sell an idea that makes a difference in people's lives. So you can reach out and we can share whatever we can do, however we can help.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone does too. So, Che and Kim, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know it's super late there. I think it's 1 in the morning or something, 1:15 now, over there in Brisbane. So, thank you for staying up late with us and telling us all about what you're doing with Olive Express. It's a wonderful project. It's doing a lot of good in the world, and I wish you the greatest success with it in the future.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Jeremy.
having
Thanks
us,
for the chat.
Jeremy. We really appreciate it. And goodbye, everybody.
My
Thanks for
pleasure.
watching.
See you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye bye.